Hey everyone, welcome to Served. I am Andy. Jon Wertheim is here as always, producer Mike, techie Sean in the house. Guys, I just kind of realized we put out the show last week, taking a deep dive into Sinner, and obviously that was the news story. It's probably the biggest news story that we'll have outside of celebrating someone's successes for winning a slam and yada, yada, yada. But as far as a story that kind of generates interest in the mainstream and in tennis, the bomb went off, Sinner got suspended. We're going to spend this part of the show on the front end, kind of catching up on the last 2 weeks because we were largely negligent because we needed to cover the Sinner thing. I thought it was needed, not to give us too much credit. I think it was needed to really take a deep dive and talk about the moving parts, the how, the why, not just the what happened. I think we did that as well as we could. I'm still reading quotes from players, analysts, and they're going, "Oh, I don't understand why he just." I'm like, it takes 20 minutes to understand processes that are in place. If you wanted to understand it, you can. Now that might not change your opinion. You might get to the same place. You still might not like it, but I think if you put a little bit of time in and ask proper questions as opposed to being in a hurry to put out a loud opinion, I think you can get to a place of nuance, but we won't spend any more time on that. What we ignored last week, and I've kind of felt some guilt about it because both great stories in their own right, is we're going to turn back the clock. Amanda Anisimova wins in Doha. Biggest tournament win of her career. Obviously, she had taken some time away from the game, dealt with the death of her father a couple years ago into basically, I need to fix myself mentally to be able to compete. Removed herself from the game, which we'll see sometimes, not often early in someone's career, which at this point it's still early in Anisimova's career. To see her come back, the pieces fall together, was a huge prospect, made the semis of Roland Garros, 3 years ago, and now is top 20 for the first time. I loved watching her play. I thought she played really, really well. It was a well-deserved victory. And then in Buenos Aires, Aires and Buenos.
Yeah,
I'm going to get the comment section gets in my head anytime. That was great. anytime I pronounce something wrong, I just instantly get tight because I know the comments are just going to smoke me. NBA, Joao Fonseca won the first of many titles. It's strange to see the way that the entire country of Brazil is already on board with this kid who is like 80 or 75 in the world. It's not as if he made the semis of a slam. It's not as if he made the finals of a Masters 1000. This is a 250, but it seems like the hype train has fully left the station and is in. I love the way he plays. There are a lot of things that I like and I can explain them. But JW, a couple of big stories with Anisimova and Fonseca from 2 weeks ago, and then we'll get to what happened this last week also.
Great stories, and I'm glad we're doing this. Were it not for the Sinner news, this would be the toast of tennis. And let's give everyone their due because there was action, there were titles, there were news events. Where do you want to go first? You want to say? Fonseca. What I love about him is that in this era we live in of big data, this is all about the eye test, isn't it? People just watch this kid play and they say, "Holy hell, is this a future champion?" One thing I like is watch the opponents. When he beats them, he beat Rublev, first round of Australia, as you predicted. Full credit. Rublev did not have this look on his face of like, damn, I just lost to a teenager. I'm going to go hide. It was more like, damn, this guy's really good. This is a future star we're watching. So as you say, it's pretty funny because, he's outside the top 50 still. What's he raised? He's like 68, still a teenager. And I think everybody that knows tennis watches his shot making. They watch the power on the forehand. He's got the Alcaraz thing where there's a nice little drop shot to leaven all that power. People just look at him and say, holy hell, this guy's a future champion, and the eyes don't lie. We can go to, Andreeva's a good story. Anisimova, I'm glad you brought her up too. I think she turns 24 during the US Open. So a lot of runway ahead. She's, this player who came within a few games of reaching a French Open final. She's beaten Sabalenka at the Australian Open. She's had some big wins, and she was very close to just saying, you know what? I don't need this. She took some college courses. She took some time off, cleared her head. Now she's back. A lot of runway there. These are great stories. So Madison Keys wins in Australia, obviously. And then we have Anisimova. So we have two big titles in the first 50 days of the year, won by two Americans, and neither of them are the top 10 players, Coco Navarro and Jesse Pegula, who we would have predicted. So there are great stories going on. It's just all been overshadowed and obscured by the number one player in the world facing a 90-day doping suspension. But I'm glad we're doing this. Let's give them their props.
The other thing about Anisimova that you want to mention is not everyone's timeline is the same, okay? So if you would have said 4 years ago, or it was 21 or 22 that she made the semis of Roland Garros, and you talk about the eye test, you're going, oh, this is this big, strong girl, woman who crushes the ball. And she took the racket out of Simona Halep's hand on clay, right? And you're going, oh, can't miss, prospect, right? There's not much that can go wrong here. And then if you would have fast forward and said, okay, in 2025, there's going to be 3 American women in the top 6 in the world, and there's going to be X amount in the top 100, top 20, and there's going to be kind of this golden era of American women's tennis that's going to happen quickly. You're going, oh, absolutely, Anisimova is one of those 3 in the top 6, right? Conversely, I don't know that you would have chosen, hey, Pegula at post 30 being top 6 in the world, making a Grand Slam final. Emma Navarro was in college, right? She's not one of the choices. So it just, there's no script. And that's the greatest thing about tennis and about sports is it's not predetermined. It's not written ahead of time. Anisimova may very well still be a top 5 player, but it's going to be on her personal timeline. Everyone has a bit of a different journey. I'm just happy to see her back, engaged, competing. It had to feel amazing for her to win that tournament and enter the top 20 for the first time, a place that she probably thought she would have, owned and not been kind of leasing and visiting at this point in her career. So props to her. And Fonseca, the one thing I'm seeing, and we'll get to Mirra Andreeva here in a second, but one thing I'm seeing with these young players that the standouts can do very well, and this wasn't a skill that was required, 25 years ago in tennis, is the ability to switch directions early in rallies. And I think they have taken the cues from the Novaks, from the Rogers, from the Rafas, how to hit behind people. Fonseca, I remember against Rublev, the last 2 points he played, just crushed the ball line. Like it used to be a risky shot, right? Andre would do it and you'd be like, man, he can do it so well. He can take risks so well. Now it's like that's just what is done. And maybe it's the strings and the way the ball is manipulated. But this kid feels as comfortable going line a lot of times as he does cross court, where if you're the opponent, your split step and check down is, you've lost the ability to lean 80% one way because you can get so exposed. He moves well. I think he's going to defend better. I think his serve's going to get better. A lot of this is just done. The damage is done in the rallies right now. And if your weight of shot is that heavy at 18 in slower conditions where I'm watching on TV, and a lot of times when you're in person, you can see the differential. You could like Sinner's ball in person is insane. Now you get the eagle eye view above, and everyone kind of looks the same. You don't see arc, you don't see trajectory. Fonseca on TV looks like he is. You can see it. You talk about the eye test. You can see it on TV how much bigger his ball is being hit than the people he's playing against, and you're going, oh, okay, he still has 20% physical runway, and that's before we even get to the brain portion of learning how to play matches. I think the hype is there for a reason. Now, where I kind of struggle sometimes is this person a surefire top 15 player, top 10 player, or is he going to be someone who wins a major? Easier said than done. I think it's obvious that he's going to be a top 10 player. Now the journey starts to where, okay, let's see, does the serve improve? Is he able to return on fast courts? Is there, something outside of the clay and when he gets to be set up? All things point to yes right now, but he's impressive. He's exciting, and Brazil is losing their minds about this kid, which is crazy, and it especially evident in the kind of run of South American events that are going on right now, John, that you're kind of pro, what they call it, the golden swing. I obviously never went there because it was played on the wrong surface for me. Props to Rublev. He credited his kind of mental fortitude by winning in Doha. I think that's great. I think anytime he's an open book, which is one of my favorite parts about him, when he goes snap fooey, you feel for him sometimes. It's like, oh, come on, man. Just like you can see it, kind of the water boiling over. Props to him. Great week. He needed a hard reset after losing first round in Australia, not having played great. It was great for him. If someone says it about themselves first, I have a hard, I kind of find it difficult to criticize. Like, if Rublev says, yeah, I'm crazy, I'm working through some stuff, it's like mentally unhealthy. What are you going to say? No, you're working through some stuff if it's mentally unhealthy. No, great. Props to him. Way to go. You ready for it, JW? And I'm not the first, because you tried to take her to a Grand Slam final last year. Mirra Andreeva is going to be number one in the world at some point.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But producer Mike, you got that?
I texted it to him.
I'm going to write it down. Yeah, he texted it.
I've got bad audio, because I think I heard him saying number one.
Yeah, he was gushing on text message.
Yeah, she's not. I mean, I watched her more this week continuously, because normally it's in a slam. You're watching a million other matches, but she serves so much better than people give her credit for, and it's only going to get better. What I worried about was if she's not one of the physical phenom specimens of like a Capriati, a Davenport, a Venus, a Serena, the one I can think of who's an absolute phenom, at least in the not too distant past, is Hingis, but then got overpowered. So my biggest question about Andreeva was, is she going to be able to create enough pace not to get overpowered by a Sabalenka, a Swiatek? She's beaten both of them. She is an elite mover already. She creates enough pace. And what am I going to talk about again, JW, that no one does? Her ability to play against people's movement makes her shots bigger. She doesn't have to go big to go through you. Her preparation is good enough where she can pull the ripcord and play behind the women that she's playing against consistently. And or if the rally builds, she can stay in it and D up. She has options. IQ beyond her years. Conchita Martinez has done an amazing job guiding this ship, but she serves great. Like, she serves great. I watched, I'm like, why is no one talking about her? Maybe it's like an improved thing, maybe. And she still has 30% runway of physicality. She's going to get bigger, stronger, faster. It's not as if it's going to go the other way. She serves great.
You texted something, and I was not watching the match, and you said exactly that. She texts great, and I didn't know if you were being sarcastic. I don't know if like the wheels had come off the serve, and then I looked at the serving stats in the final. I'm like, oh shit, you're right. There is a lot of upside. There's a lot of poise. There's a lot of maturity. In my next life, if I am if I were ever a felon, I would want Sinner's lawyer. If I were ever a pro tennis player, I would want Conchita Martinez as my coach. Her track record is pretty good. Did you hear Andreeva too say she was doing her thank yous when she won, and she said, I'd also like to thank myself.
Yes.
But that was really a nice
great.
bit of
good for you. You should.
Great bit of philosophy.
Perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, there's and I like what you said about movement. We had her at Roland Garros last year, and it's like forensic evidence in like the in a car crash. The lines on the back of the court where she was anticipating and she would stop and start, and you looked at the lines of her movement versus her opponents, and there were a lot of times where she would take a wrong step in one direction, recover, and still get to the ball in plenty of time. There were other times where she would read a cross court and she would start heading off before the ball was traveling over the net. There's a lot to like here that you can't teach, but it also seems like the stuff you can teach, she's open to learning. So man, you've trumped me picking her at number one, but I can't disagree with that pretty with much vigor.
If I'm wrong, it's not by much. Like, I would bet $5 on it now. I like, who knows what happens between here and there. There's a million miles between she'd just get into the top 10. There's a million miles to get to number one, right? But what I'm saying is, even a year ago, I'm like, she's going to get bullied around the court. We still have a lot to see. She can step in. She's pretty complete at this point. Her movement is great. Her serve is really good. She might miss shots. She might get overpowered in rallies sometimes, but for being as young as she is, I don't know, like 4 times when I was watching over the past 4 days, did I go, that was a bad decision? That's not a lot. She's already kind of figured out a lot of the hard parts of the game that dummies like me didn't figure out till a lot later. But yeah, I mean, I don't think maybe she listens to dummies like me too much, but it seems like she's pretty well insulated and pretty focused and pretty professional. But yeah, if I'm being hyperbolic about it, it's only by a little, right? I really think a lot of her, and having watched her this week, I think more of her than I did 8 days ago. Her serve is really good. No one talks about it. Maybe it was a great serving week, maybe serving conditions, certain places you like certain things.